Chapter 20. As we rushed out into the spring night, the air was crisp and cool, laced with the smell of diesel fumes and chicken fingers. After the noisy babble and bedlam inside the restaurant, being outside was a relief, a soothing hush of sky and pavement. I could hear cars on the road in front of the diner, each sounding like nothing more than a wave lapping shore. Nobody spoke as we hopped quickly over potholes in the light of the single street lamp, weaving in and out of trucks and semi-trailers toward the distant corner of the lot, moving toward the alley. We kept a close eye behind us in case Ozzy or anyone else might be giving chase. But whether he was still lying on his back in the middle of the remains of banana cream pie, or just too embarrassed to follow, it didn't appear that Ozzy was coming after us. During all the commotion inside the restaurant, I'd forgotten about the down-and-out man by the dumpster. We had nearly passed him again before the noisy return of "Seen too much" would not allow me to forget that he was still there. I felt the pinch of sorrow and remorse, and realized that while my savvy had done nothing to help that soul-sick, broken man, there was something else I could do for him. Dropping behind the others, I set my burger basket down on the ground, near the outstretched hand. Then I removed the purple ribbon flower pinned to the shoulder of my special occasion dress, and set that down beside the burger, feeling sure that Papa would understand. Aside from my silver pen, it was the only thing I had to give, the only way I had to show the man that I'd seen him, that I'd listened. Heading back to the bus, everyone was so breathless and shaken by the incident inside the diner. Only Will seemed to take any notice of my tiny offering, giving me a warm look as he waited for me to catch up. Further now from the crowd of voices inside this restaurant, and the voice of the homeless man, I was disappointed, but not surprised, when Bobby and Carlene and Rhonda all rolled back into my head, as loud and rowdy as if they owned the place. "Lester's got his foot stuck in a deep bucket of mud now. That man sure has a way of doing it." As Lester struggled to open the door of the bus, and balance the stolen pie at the same time, the rest of us leaned up against the side of the bus to catch our breath. Despite everything that had just happened, Bobby was staring at me, almost calmly, arms folded, with a probing yet guarded look on her face. Will Jr. stood behind her, his expression unreadable. "Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking?" That little angel on Bobby's back sang through my brain. Carlene's and Rhonda's voices took backstage to Bobby's angel, their never-ending Lester bashing sounding like backup vocals to Bobby's newest tune. "Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking?" Bobby pushed her thoughts at me, louder and louder. "Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking? Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking?" She was driving me crazy. As Lester finally got the door open, I put my fingers in my ears and started to hum the Star-Spangled Banner, just as loud as anyone can hum. But Fish spun me around, pulling my finger out of my right ear and whispering tightly, "What are you hearing, Mibs?" "Bobby's got herself a tattoo on her back, and it won't stop yammering at me," I whispered back. "She knows, Fish. Remember?" Fish threw a glance Bobby's way. The girl was leaning up against the side of the bus, watching me like I was a mouse, and she was a cat. A cat who liked playing with its food before eating. Will Jr. was standing just a bit behind her, his face screwed up now, as though trying to decide if he understood the punchline of a joke. Bobby didn't look at Fish. She was too busy burning her eyes right into me. "Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking? Tell me what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm thinking?" "Stop it, Bobby," said Fish, one hand raised in a tight fist, as Lester and Lil climbed up into the bus with Samson. "Stop what?" said Bobby, overflowing with fake flibberty-gibbety sugar. "You know what," said Fish angrily, throwing his burger onto the ground. A gust of wind blew Bobby's hair up around her head in a flurry, and the air turned humid and hot. Bobby stopped leaning against the bus and stood up straight, narrowing her eyes across the light from the street lamp at Fish, and spitting at strands of hair caught in her gum. Bobby threw down her own burger as though accepting a challenge to fight. "I'm just thinking Do you want me to stop thinking? Fish's next gust was stronger, blowing Bobby's hair straight back and plastering her close to her body, as though she were facing straight into a tempest. Will Jr. took a step back and turned to shield his eyes and his burger, as dirt and gravel lifted from the crumbling pavement by the strength of Fish's wind, swept toward him and Bobby. Ragged shreds of plastic sheeting whipped and snapped along the alleyway like a multitude of wild, ghostly specters. From out of nowhere came a spatter of biting rain that hit the side of the bus with the sound of a sprinkler hitting a chain-link fence. Fish was standing in front of me now, acting like a shield between me and Will and Bobby Meeks. He had his feet planted and his arms out at his sides like some kind of comic book super kid, his own hair whipping up a frenzy as he pushed out powerful storms of wind and rain that started the bus rocking and knocked Bobby backward into Will. Lester poked his head out of the door of the bus, his combed-over hair flapping madly like a grocery sack on a barbed wire fence. All Lester could see was the hurum-scurum, hurly-burly of a rising storm. Despite everything, he didn't realize that the disturbance was coming from Fish, and that behind Fish, I didn't have a single hair out of place or a single rustle in my skirt. It was as though I was standing in the still, calm eye of a cyclone. But Bobby and Will Jr. saw it all, and now they understood perfectly. Now they knew, sure as sure. Bobby and Will no longer had any doubts whatsoever that the Beaumont kids were different, that the Beaumont kids were extraordinary, freakishly not normal. But all told, when it came right down to it, Bobby and Will Jr. realized that we were also pretty amazing.